Hey, Simon Coter from Italy and Simon Hayler from the UK. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
It's really good to meet you guys. I've been actually following you for a few years because you're obviously in the Linux organization here at Oracle, and I've had many conversations with Wim Kokerts about Linux and virtualization. And so I just kind of trip over you guys every now and then. So I've always wanted to sit down and have a conversation about open source and virtualization and Linux and these types of things. And we were having a conversation a little bit earlier about maybe doing like a series of podcasts. And so we kind of settled this discussion on talking about virtualization and talking a little bit about VirtualBox and some of the new features and some of the new integrations with OCI and things like that. So I understand you guys are at version 6.1 with VirtualBox. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And it does give us some really interesting features around integration with OCI or Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So the really cool thing we can do is we can actually have a virtual machine which is running locally on your laptop, your desktop. And what you can actually do, as long as you've got an OCI account and you can set up your fingerprint access and that kind of stuff, so you can kind of swap information between your local machine and OCI, you can actually take the virtual machine that you're running locally on your laptop, for example, and you can actually push it up to OCI, and it kind of transfers itself from your local virtual machine into an instance within OCI, which is really, really cool stuff. And then, transversely, what we can also do is we can take other instances that are running in OCI in kind of instance shape, and we can actually then pull them back down to our local VirtualBox laptop and actually spin up a machine based on the actual instance that you had in OCI and locally. So it's a kind of two-way street, really. You can push up and pull back.
Interesting. So so you have this feature, this ability to actually do this, but for developers, what's the benefit? Why would you want to integrate with OCI?
So I guess it's one of those things where it's sort of like if you're a developer or you're part of an integration team, and you've done quite a bit of work at home, for example. Everybody's working from home at the moment, right? So, you can push a virtual machine up there, which you can share with your colleagues, so you can create a sort of entity of a goal build for other people to actually take and copy and download. And it makes it a more easier and secure way of doing things. So you can actually push it up and then you can get others to have access to the same areas to pull it down, for example.
Cool. Interesting. So when I first used VirtualBox, I was at Sun. This is a very, very long time ago, and I used it to do testing of Solaris versions of Solaris, and because Solaris back then was very hard to install on laptops, and I just loved this thing because it just worked. I was able to run Solaris, and this is a long time ago. So I'm not an engineer. I was just testing things. And playing around. And so what do more technical people, smarter people than me, what are they using VirtualBox for? What's the use case for this thing?
So it's just, from my perspective, it's that essence of being able to develop locally. And, not so much just a developer when you're writing code, but kind of more integration-wise as well. So you're working on solutions, and you can pull in other kind of tools as well to help you build things really quickly. So, for example, Vagrant. So you can use Vagrant to spin things up locally, lots of different sort of multi-tiered solutions to do with our virtualization stuff, Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. We've got some Vagrant stuff that will actually put that up into a demo area, or you can actually kick it up and get it going so you can kick the tires and that kind of thing. And then also you can do some other really sort of funky stuff with security as well. So you can actually secure the boot disks and that kind of stuff. So you can layer on encryption. And that could be part of the stuff that you actually use and share. So there's a lot of different lower level stuff you can do, as well as extending the USB access locally and doing all sorts of other funky stuff with video and things.
Cool.
Yeah, Jim, and to add on this, another interesting point related to VirtualBox that again takes VirtualBox in a unique place, if you want, is that VirtualBox is the same virtualization software that is today available for different operating systems, right? So it's the same software on Windows, Linux, as well as Mac OS, right? And this is quite unique, because if you look at possible other virtualization solution, you have one that runs on Windows, another one that is there on Linux, and the third one may be available on macOS. And for a developer, part of a team, leveraging the same solution, where at the end it does not matter what you run on your host or your laptop, right? Because at the end you have it, if you want, a sort of transparent layer between the development environment and the host operating system, right? And in this case, the transparent layer is VBox. It's something that is going to grant the same experience for all the developers part of a team, right? Does not matter if the developer runs Windows or Linux on the host, right? At the end, you have VirtualBox that is always the same software on top of it.
So that must really make things a lot easier. So the UI and the commands, everything is the same.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. But we can also do stuff with the open virtualization format as well. So what we can do is we can actually export, I was talking earlier about the OCI stuff. So you can also do stuff locally where you export your virtual machines to the an open virtualization format appliance. And then you can share that out as well. So then people can import it. And as Simon said earlier, it doesn't matter. So I could have a Mac, and my colleague could have a Windows box, Windows 10, or they could be running Linux. And I could share around that particular, open virtualization format to any of them, and they should be able to import it and run it no problem.
Is it still, because I haven't used it in years, is it still for like a non-technical, for non-engineer, is it still really easy to use? Because, I found it just very easy to use out of the box, years ago.
Absolutely, yeah. It's still very much point and click. It's got big UI. It's easy to read. It's easy to see. It's colorful, and it's very intuitive. And once you've got your head around the different sort of parts that you need to edit to get things up running really quickly, it's great. And also taking that down a stage as well. So if you're a more power user and you want to use it in a kind of server environment, there things like headless modes. So you don't actually have to have the video running all the time. So it's I think we've already said it, but it's definitely very multi-layered with respect to building out proper solutions.
Yeah, this is something we want to maintain on VBox, right? And this is something that we always evaluate while working on possible updates or even major releases for VBox. We always want to keep an easy-to-use GUI, but at the same time, a powerful CLI, right? That gives you the opportunity to possibly automate anything, right?
How long did the cloud integration take?
You mean in terms of time dedicated?
What was involved? Because you had a client, your client application. How long did it take? What did you have to do to adapt this for integration with the cloud?
Yeah, it has been a really new requirement for VirtualBox team, because VirtualBox is a local solution, or had been always a local solution or a local only solution, right? Built on C code and that's all. The VirtualBox engineers had to face with something new, so web services API, because now VirtualBox is able to interact with the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure web services API, and thanks to those, we are now able to upload images and get VMs or instances running on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. But at the same time, we are also able to, like Simon was saying, we are also able to get back the instances that are there on the cloud and possibly import locally on VirtualBox. There's been a huge step ahead. Obviously, we worked and collaborated with the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure team on this. Now it's something that really works, because with the easy to use GUI of VirtualBox and 4 or 5 clicks, you can get a local VM uploaded and running on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure.
Yeah, even I can do it. So how long has it been available? In terms of OCI integration.
So we introduced the OCI integration with VirtualBox 6.0, but the real GUI integration had been introduced with VirtualBox 6.1 in December 2019. Okay. So it's over there where we really introduced the easy-to-use integration with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure.
Interesting. Cool. And I understand that there's a new book out about the application as well. So tell me about the book.
So this is a VirtualBox for Dummies book. It was written by myself and Simon. And so what we tried to kind of do there was explain a little bit more about these really cool features that we've just chatted about, one of which is the export and the import to OCI. And also to kind of dig down a bit deeper into the encryption option. So security is incredibly important to everybody these days, right? So, we delve down into how you use encryption, what are the options are, and how you can encrypt individual disks or all disks, that kind of stuff. And also talk about the open virtualization format. So how you share stuff. So how as a user you can create your own stuff and then share it with other people, that kind of thing. So it was really, so that those were the kind of main areas that we really drilled down into, as well as kind of like an overview of sort of some areas that we thought were, important and kind of fun to know, as well as kind of outlining and sort of emphasizing on what the key, business benefits of using VirtualBox are.
How is it writing a book? I've never written a book, but I've interviewed a lot of people and they say, some of them say, oh, it was really cool. It was great. Some of them say, oh, this thing dragged on for years, So what was it like?
It's weird because back when I was at Sun Microsystems, I wrote a couple of chapters for one of the virtualization books around Solaris 10, where we compared different operating systems and hypervisors and stuff. And that was great, and that was quite interesting to do because it's the first time I've ever done anything like that. And we didn't have any restrictions on the number of pages. So it was very much a case of you just wrote what you thought was right. And then the editors came back to you and said, that's probably a bit long, or that's a little bit long-winded. Can you rephrase that? Whereas this particular one, because because the For Dummies series is fixed to a kind of set number of pages because it has to be short, snappy, and concise. We only had a certain number of pages to write to. And I found that a little harder to do than just writing a white paper or something, because you write what you know and you want the key parts that you really want to get across. But if you've got like a limit of the number of pages, that was kind of, I found that a little harder to do, but very enjoyable.
So did you guys sort of split up areas where you focus, or did you both work on everything?
We kind of shared it, didn't we, Simon? It was a case of we sat down, had many different sort of get-togethers over Zoom to chat about what we thought was important and how we should put it across. And then both of us kind of worked on different areas and then sort of pulled it all together and made sure we both agreed with how it was coming across together.
Yeah, we were both working remotely. So, yeah, we were used to get on conference and work together there. Yeah.
So the book is recent. So it's a pandemic book, right? I mean, it took place right now.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot book.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there. It's public available, obviously for free. Quite interesting, and Simon Hayler said, I think that we did a great job there just because we had been able to keep all the important information related to those Oracle Cloud Infrastructure capabilities within maybe less than 40 pages, right? And over there you can even find examples, right? So it's not only a descriptive book, but you can find examples and code there that shows you how and what you can do with VirtualBox.
Cool. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit here and talk about the community. VirtualBox is obviously an open source project, and so talk a little bit about how you work with the community. You get feedback. There's forums. Where the code is. Talk a little bit about the website, things like that.
Yeah. So there's obviously behind VirtualBox there's a huge community, and obviously we always look at the community feedback on VirtualBox. We always look at any possible problems that the community reports, and the entire engineering team is focused on the feedback that we receive there. Just because we know that our community is really, really important for us. because it's also it's the community that at the end gives us the immediate feedback on possible issues related to VirtualBox. And obviously we appreciate this so much, and our engineers obviously keeps always attention on which messages we receive from them. And the entire community is really, really active on the forum that we have on virtualbox.org website. We can see that the huge number of downloads for VirtualBox every day, and obviously a peak on each maintenance release or even the major release for VirtualBox. So the community for us is really, really important. We know that we with VirtualBox, we are able to give something very, very useful to them, but at the same time, we perfectly know that they are so useful for us, right? In terms of feedback, and even in possible enhancement for VirtualBox.
It's good to hear that it's still active, because that's what I remember it as. People were just excited, and they were very, because it seemed to work so well. And so it's good to hear that, it's downloaded a lot, and, people are using it and giving feedback. So the code is where?
The entire code, and the entire source code is there on virtualbox.org website. Over there, you can find the downloads for VirtualBox. You can even find test builds where maybe we address requirements and possible bug fixes coming from issues reported by community. Because this is also another important thing. We have our generally available releases or generally available maintenance releases, but we also have test builds that are there on virtualbox.org website. And over there, we usually address possible bug fixes based on issues that are reported from the community. This is also one of the methods that we have to possibly give a prompt answer to a request coming from the community.
Cool. Can you talk a little bit about where we're going with VirtualBox? We've talked a little bit about the community, a little bit about the features, some of the benefits, the new integration with the cloud. That's all cool stuff. What's next? Is there anything that's coming up that people should know about?
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to know that because lately we are seeing more and more requests related to what's going on with VirtualBox. If, for example, we are going to introduce the support for M1 CPU on Apple macOS platform and so on and so on. Yeah, the important thing is that we started more than 1 year ago to work on what will be the next major release of VirtualBox, right? And over there, we are doing, in my opinion, a great job, because we are working on many different important topics. One of them is obviously the support for M1 CPU on macOS, even the support for latest Microsoft Windows releases. Lately, due to important changes that happened in terms of security on both Microsoft Windows as well as Apple macOS, we had to do a huge work to maintain the support for VirtualBox on those platforms. And the team is working also on those topics for the next major release. At the same time, another hot topic for VirtualBox, and this one is, for example, a very hot topic for the community people, is related to 3D support. We started to work to introduce and to really rewrite from scratch the entire 3D support to bring the best experience possible for 3D on VMs running on top of VirtualBox. Another thing we are working on is also related to the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure integration. Over there, we are working to enhance the experience and the capabilities of VBox while working with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So some of those are the base management of OCI instances by VirtualBox. So by the VirtualBox GUI, you will have the opportunity to manage Oracle Cloud Infrastructure instances directly from the VirtualBox GUI, right? We are working to improve the experience related to export and import from into Oracle Cloud. So yeah, many things are going to happen on the next major release of VBox, and this is also something that confirm the commitment on VirtualBox from Oracle, because in the past, as a PM for VirtualBox, I heard more than one time people saying that Oracle was going to kill the open source project and so on. No, that's not true. The team, to be honest, the team also grew in the time, and we already started to work on what will be the next major release. And I think that this one will really get our community happy, and we're doing a great job there.
Wow, it actually sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot's going on. I was going to ask you, as we wrap up here, is there anything that we've left out, to talk about? Is there anything I haven't asked that would be, good to discuss? But it seems like you've got a lot going on there, not only now, but also into the future. So I'll ask the question anyway. Is there anything that we left out?
I don't know. Simon, what do you think?
I can't think of anything that we left out of the book and what's going on with VirtualBox now. I think the summary thing to say is such a cool product.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was at Sun in 2008, and I remember doing some of the first evaluations of VirtualBox, and I just thought it was such an incredible product. And it's just gone from strength to strength, and all credit to Oracle for actually carrying it through with the same methodology and ethos.
Yeah, I can remember sitting in my office at MPK 17, and very famous for Solaris, and I couldn't get Solaris 10 installed. I didn't have the right drivers, and I'm not smart enough to be able to install all the drivers. I had an old laptop, and I actually put VirtualBox in, and it just worked. It was nice, and so I was really happy. I was running Solaris. That was really cool. And then Solaris became actually very easy to install, but still, it was really nice to do testing, to get a few operating systems and put a few Linuxes on there as well. And so, all right, guys.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You remembered me one thing. Some months ago, I bet with one of my friends to possibly run Microsoft Windows 3.1 on my own device, right? On my own modern device today. So I remember that there was an ISO of 2 megabytes. And with the latest VirtualBox 6.1, I had been able to run Microsoft Windows 3.1 on my modern device. So another really interesting thing is that you are also able to run legacy operating system if you need, right? This one also is another request that we usually receive from our community, and we always try to keep or to give the opportunity to run a legacy operating system on VBox. Excellent. It just works, and you can even get DOS, right, if you want. You can get it running on VBox today. Wow. So this is, in my opinion, this is really cool because, obviously maybe DOS or Microsoft Windows 3.1 is not interesting, but for example, there are people that are still interested to run legacy Microsoft Windows releases or maybe a legacy Linux release, just because they need it to run a particular software that is not more there on modern operating systems, right? And this one is one of the common use cases, right? And obviously, we always try also to maintain this kind of compatibility with legacy operating systems.
All right. Great. All right. Well, Simon Coter from Italy and Simon Hayler from the UK. It's great talking to you. Let's meet up again in a few months and talk a little bit of Linux and see what's going on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. I think that there are a couple of hot topics or a couple of targets that we can discuss. Yeah, we did, and Simon also is working on this. We did something related to Ansible as well as cloud native. I think that we could have a good discussion even there.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.